Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to That's Football. You've got to hear this because Spurs are in crisis, and that rhymes, and they are in crisis. They're in a huge crisis. Arne Slot, the Feyenoord coach, he was odds on to become the next Spurs coach. He is going to stay at Feyenoord. Where do Spurs go next? Harry Kane looking to leave, probably should leave. This club, Spurs, were in the international break fighting for fourth. They're now probably not going to be in Europe. They're not making any impact on the transfer window because they don't know who the manager's going to be. Everybody else is just moving away. Man City, Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea, Newcastle, Brighton, everybody is moving away. In fact, the only major signing Spurs look like doing this summer is 3 nights from Adele at the stadium in August. And don't get excited because that's only a joke. So I don't know what Spurs are going to do. What I can say from a Man United point of view is that if we've got this sale process going on, but we're still being linked to Mason Mount, we're still being linked to Kim Min-jae, we're still doing things even with a sale process. Spurs don't even have a manager. How can you start making moves for players when you don't know who your manager is? It's an absolute shit show. Let's be honest. Spurs is a shit show. I feel for Spurs fans. When I think about Spurs, I've said this many times before, they might not win trophies, but under Poch, under Harry Redknapp, even going back further than that in the Ginola days, the Gaza days, it was Spurs always had this ability to entertain. And over recent years, Nunez, Mourinho, Conte, you become very boring. There's no result. There's no upturn in winning things. Amazing stadium, massive support in London, and it's just being wasted by bad ownership. I think that Spurs, well, I'll talk about that in a minute, but I think that in the immediate future, it's very easy for me to say Spurs will not get top 4. You won't get top 6 next year. You might not even get top 8. How? I mean, look, assuming Harry Kane's going to leave, because why would you stay? Assuming Harry Kane's going to leave, like, what is Spurs? But let's go back to the manager situation. To me, this sticks out like a sore thumb that the problem is the way Spurs is run. Nagelsmann has said no. Pochettino's never entertained coming back, and now the Feyenoord coach is saying no. And I don't think the Feyenoord coach was the answer. I thought that was a bit Spursy, but it gets even more Spursy now. I mean, I'm hearing things about Xabi Alonso. I'm hearing things about Ruud van Nistelrooy, Brendan Rodgers, Spalletti from Napoli, who's going to leave. I mean, these are massive. They're not Klopp. They're not Pochettino even. They're certainly not Pep Guardiola. They're not Arteta. They're not Ten Hag. They're not even Eddie Howe. They're massive gambles on a team that's, I mean, you're legless. I normally say that a manager's got 2 arms tied behind their back. Their legs are tied behind their back as well. I don't see Spurs moving. Clearly, people like Nagelsmann are saying no because the infrastructure, the offer of spend and everything is just not good. I think if you take that Spurs job as Nagelsmann or anybody else, you're getting the sack in the next year or two because it's so logical that Spurs are not going to finish in the top 7 next season. Maybe not top 8. If you take Kane away, maybe not. Maybe you're mid-table. Their fans won't like that, and the board will throw the manager under the bus. It's just basically failure for Spurs when you look at it in a logical, pragmatic way. And as I said, look, the summer transfer window is absolutely massive for everybody this year. Everybody's trying to fight against each other. Chelsea, Arsenal, Newcastle, Man United, Liverpool. They're all trying to compete with each other to be that second place to Manchester City. And they're all making moves. Like Arsenal trying to get Rice, Liverpool, McAllister. Chelsea are in on Osman and other things. United, we've already mentioned. Spurs cannot do anything. If I'm the Feyenoord coach and I'm going to become Spurs manager, which he's not, or I'm, Enrique's been mentioned. Why is Enrique back on the table as well? He clearly would have been one of their clear number 1 choices. Obviously, he's said no, and now he's looking to say yes again. I don't. It just feels like Spurs are going to end up with somebody who's not good enough, or someone who's just desperate to take a job because their best targets are saying no. And even look at the amount of managers that have sacked their coach. Look at Spurs. Southampton have already got their manager in for next year's. All right, it's a Swansea coach, but it's not difficult to get a new manager. And Spurs knew Conte was going in March, and we are now at the end of May, and they still don't have a manager. It's shocking. I can't tell you how bad it is to not know who your manager is on the 25th of May. It's disgusting. They've got no cup finals. their last game is on Sunday. Erik Ten Hag came into Manchester United the day he'd won the title with Ajax. He came in the next day in the middle of May, and we all knew that was too late. And that's 2 weeks before Spurs. Well, Spurs haven't even got a manager yet. He's going to have to come in, assess the squad. I do not know what Spurs are going to be next year. But look, what Spurs need, and people might not like this, what Spurs need is what Newcastle have got and what Man City have got. They've got an amazing stadium, amazing support. They're in the right place. They've got a lot of ticks, but their ownership is a mess. And anybody can see that. Not just Spurs fans, anybody can see that. And this is the danger about money men, isn't it? They get hold of a football club, they think they know best, but ultimately they may well be good people, but they've got bad ideas. And Spurs, especially over the last few years, has just been mistake after mistake after mistake that everybody could see. I said when they appointed Darwin Núñez, it'd have been better than bloody the Núñez they got. I said that was going to fail, and it failed massively. Conte, I thought was a good idea, but it's always been very like that. You know, they've been butting heads, so that never worked out. I couldn't believe, I mentioned it before, but I couldn't believe that in March they knew Conte was going. They were a genuine competitor to Man United and Newcastle for top four, and they basically wrote their season off. In fact, Spurs I would call a bear in hibernation. Not even a bear, mole. Don't moles hype. Turtle. A turtle. They're not a bear, because when they wake up, they've got no bites. They're a turtle. They hibernate, aren't they? They're a turtle in hibernation. They're already slow, but they've gone to sleep anyway. What have Spurs been doing since March? Your manager's gone. You're right, you've messed the season up, but maybe have another manager lined up. Absolutely shocking. And I think that the way forward, the only positive for Spurs would be if they got bought by somebody super wealthy, because they clearly do not have the right owners in place that can compete. I mean, it's very hard to compete anyway when you're competing against Newcastle and Man City. But even Arsenal, they've got good people in place around the manager, and they're bearing fruit from that. So Spurs just, I don't know. I mean, get excited about Beyonce. That's probably another deal they can do this summer. Maybe another NFL. Get the go-kart track underneath the pitch. It's a shame. It's a massive waste of a decent football club. But I'd be writing next season off already. You cannot be in a position at the end of May where you don't know who your manager is. That's going to impact selling players, buying players. This is going to be a very, very, very difficult period for Spurs because, yeah, you've got players you need to sell. You've got players you need to buy. Nobody can be doing that. Because if I'm the new manager, I'm like, why have you kept that player? Why have you bought that player? I'm the manager. So they've got to wait for the manager. And then he's got to bring his own team with him. I just think long, drawn-out summer for Spurs. And not very, they're in a huge crisis. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Really interested to see what your thoughts are, especially from Spurs fans. But everybody else, what is your perception of Spurs and what's the future? I don't see them in the top 6 next year. I'd bet good money on that. And with the teams like Villa and Brighton, I don't really see them in the top 8, which is horrific for a club of that size. Get your comments in below. Smash a like and subscribe. I'll speak to you on the next one.